Okay, so you're here because you want to understand how stuff actually goes viral.
You want to go beyond just seeing those numbers and actually know what's behind it all.
Exactly. And today's deep dive, well, we're tackling that mystery head on.
Trying to make it a little less mysterious, a little more something you can actually use.
Right, like a recipe you can follow. And this isn't just theory. We're going deep into the insights of Brendan Kane. He's a true veteran.
Been in the game for like 20 years.
Yeah, working with some massive names you've definitely heard of. Taylor Swift.
MTV, Paramount.
IKEA even.
The guy's seen it all, from like global superstars to selling furniture.
And the best part is he hasn't just been behind the scenes. He's written books about this stuff, like 1 Million Followers.
The Hookpoint, How to Stand Out in a 3-Second World.
The Guide to Going Viral. Like, he's really put in the work to break this down.
And we're using one of his videos as the foundation for this deep dive. It's a really great one from Technova on YouTube.
It really gets to the core of his process, and that's what we're after today, the actual strategies that come from his years of experience.
We want to give you something you can actually walk away with and use, you know.
Make it actionable.
Yeah, totally. And it all starts with a shift in how we think about social media because, you know, you might be an expert at scrolling through your feed.
We're all pretty good at that, right?
But there's a difference between consuming content and actually understanding how to create it that really works.
Like, you could eat Chipotle every day for a year.
You'd be a real expert at, you know, enjoying it.
But could you walk into the kitchen and whip up a burrito bowl from scratch?
Probably not. And that's the gap we're trying to bridge today, moving from just being a social media foodie to knowing the recipe.
Okay, so how do we actually start bridging that gap?
Well, Brendan's first big point is about making a conscious change in how we approach the content we see every day.
It's about becoming more than just a consumer?
Yeah, shifting from passively watching to actively creating, and that starts with analysis.
It's like, instead of just enjoying a meal, you break it down, you figure out the ingredients, the techniques, the whole recipe.
Exactly. And as creators, we need to do the same thing with the content we see online, asking ourselves, you know, what makes this video work?
Right, not just is it funny or entertaining, but what's the structure behind it?
What are the underlying principles that are driving its success? And Brendan says a big part of that is understanding the concept of a format.
Now, when he talks about a format, he's not talking about those one-off viral videos, you know, the ones that get a ton of views for a day and then disappear.
He's talking about something much more sustainable, a well-researched and repeatable structure.
Something with a proven track record that you can plug your own message or brand into.
It's like a template for success. And the key here is that it's not about finding one video that went viral.
It's about identifying creators who are using the same structure over and over again.
And getting results consistently.
Sure.
You know, they've used the same format 5 times, 10 times, and it's clearly working for them.
There's a clear structure there. You can see the patterns in the pacing, the editing, the storytelling, and to help people find these repeatable formats.
Brendan's company, Hookpoint, actually developed a tool called the Hookpoint Format Finder. Pretty straightforward.
But the point is, you're not just looking for those one-hit wonders, you're looking for that consistent success across multiple videos.
Right, because Brendan showed a great example of this during the video he was talking about.
Yeah, he showed this video of a dog.
Let's just say he was having a very good time.
Yeah, a very good time. And it got a lot of views right away. It had that viral spark.
Well, when you looked at the creator's profile, all their other videos were just kind of average.
Nothing special. It was clearly just a random viral moment, not a repeatable format.
And then he contrasted that with another dog video. This one was more of a reaction video. The dog was reacting to its owner doing something silly.
It might not have had the same immediate explosion of views.
But when they looked at that creator's profile,
oh yeah,
they had tons of videos, all with millions of views. It was crazy.
And it's because they were using a repeatable format, a structure that consistently worked. And that's Brendan's point. Not every viral video equals a successful format.
And not every account you see is going to be a reliable source of inspiration. You need to look for those creators who are getting results consistently.
Right. They're not just lucky they have a system. And this idea of formats applies to way more than just dog videos.
It's relevant to any kind of content you're analyzing. Doesn't matter what niche you're in, what industry you're trying to reach.
And he makes this really important distinction between following a format and just following a trend.
Which, you know, we see all the time on social media.
Oh yeah, a new sound, a new dance, a new meme.
And those things can be fun. They might give you a temporary boost.
But they're fleeting. You can't build a long-term strategy on a trend.
Because a trend is by definition something that's going to fade away.
Right, like those little fidget spinner things.
Exactly. But a format, that's something with staying power. It's a foundation you can build on.
So when you're analyzing formats, Brendan says you need to pay attention to the context.
How the story is told, the nuances of the delivery.
Because you might see your competitors using a similar type of content.
But they might not be executing the format effectively. They might not have grasped the subtleties that make it work.
It's like using the same ingredients, but not following the recipe correctly.
Yeah, your cake might not rise.
Or it might taste terrible.
Exactly. And the cool thing about formats is that they're adaptable. You can take a format that's working really well in one industry
and apply it to something completely different.
The content changes, but the structure stays the same.
Like you could have a tech reviewer who's using a really effective format to break down gadgets.
And a fitness coach could use that same format to talk about workout routines.
Or a chef could use it to explain different cooking techniques.
The possibilities are endless. So that's the first shift Brendan talks about, going from passively consuming content
to actively analyzing it.
Breaking down those successful videos, figuring out the beginning, the middle, the end, and all those little details that contribute to their success.
Okay, so we've shifted our mindset. We're not just watching videos anymore. We're dissecting them.
We're looking for those repeatable formats.
But then how do we actually choose the right format and then really dive deep into understanding it?
That's where things get really interesting. And this is where Brendan's second step comes in. Select a format and then analyze it meticulously.
And I know what some people might be thinking right now. Formats. Doesn't that sound kind of restricting?
Right. Like, where's the room for creativity?
Exactly. It seems like it would stifle your originality.
But Brendan actually argues that formats don't limit creativity, they unlock it.
And he uses this really cool analogy from the film industry.
Which makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah, because if you think about all the movies that have been made for like over a century,
the vast majority of them follow these very basic storytelling structures.
Like the classic 3-act structure.
Or the hero's journey.
And yet within those structures, you have this incredible diversity of films.
You have comedies, you have dramas, you have action movies, you have romances.
And they all use those same basic building blocks.
And Brendan points to Steven Spielberg as a prime example.
The guy's a legend.
Right. And he's used these foundational formats across so many different movies.
Jurassic Park, E.T., Lincoln, Jaws, Indiana Jones, Saving Private Ryan. Like, the list goes on and on.
Each one feels unique. Each one has his distinct style, but they're all built on that same solid foundation.
And you're not sitting there watching Indiana Jones thinking, oh, look, another hero's journey.
Right, because Spielberg has mastered those formats. He's internalized them, and that mastery frees him up to be even more creative.
And that's exactly what we can do with social media content.
Mm-hmm.
We find a format that works.
We learn it, we master it.
And then we can really let our creativity shine through within those boundaries.
The format provides the structure, the essential framework.
And your own unique context, your perspective, your voice. That's where the creative freedom comes in.
Like Brendan says, context trumps content.
So it's not about trying to reinvent the wheel every time you create a new piece of content.
It's about finding a reel that's already rolling really well.
And then making it your own by adding your own unique spin to it.
Mastering those subtle nuances that really make it sing.
So how do we actually go about selecting the right format for our needs?
Brendan gives us 2 key questions to consider. The first one is very practical. What resources do you have?
Yeah. Are you flying solo or do you have a team behind you?
How much time can you realistically commit to creating content?
What kind of equipment are you working with? And he really emphasizes that you don't need some fancy Hollywood setup.
He's seen people creating incredible content with millions of views every month just using their iPhones.
It's about being realistic about what you have and choosing a format that fits within those constraints.
And then the second question is super important too. What are you actually passionate about?
Because if you're not excited about the content you're creating,
you're not going to stick with it.
It'll feel like a chore and your audience will be able to tell.
Enthusiasm is contagious, and it's what fuels that consistency we talked about earlier.
If you love what you're doing, it won't feel like work.
And Brendan mentioned that Hookpoint's research has uncovered over 300 different storytelling formats.
Wow, there's a lot to choose from.
Right. And to give us some concrete examples, he highlighted 3 very different formats that are working really well.
The first one was the man on the street format. You see creators like Alex Templowski using this all the time.
Yeah, it's basically approaching random people in public and letting a story unfold organically.
Like he showed this clip where Alex went up to this woman and asked if she would model for a photo shoot.
And it led to this really funny and engaging interaction.
And it's not just for lighthearted stuff either.
Mm.
Brendan pointed out that the Account School of Hard Knocks uses a similar approach.
They interview entrepreneurs on the street asking them things like, how did you make your first $1 million?
So it can be serious and insightful too.
Totally. The second format he talked about was 2 characters, 1 light bulb.
That's a good one.
It's where one person plays 2 different characters to break down a topic from multiple angles.
Like Mark Tilbury uses this format a lot.
Yeah, Brendan showed an example of Mark playing both the buyer and the seller in a car negotiation.
It's a clever way to make a potentially dry subject more entertaining.
And again, it's adaptable. You could use it to explain any kind of complex concept.
Like Brendan mentioned Erica Coburg using it to demystify legal jargon.
Yeah, make those contracts a little less intimidating.
The third format he highlighted was walking listicles.
Which, as the name suggests, is basically someone walking and talking through a list of items.
Robert Krook is a great example of this.
Yeah, Brendan showed a video of Robert walking around his neighborhood sharing his top 3 tips for becoming a millionaire.
And what's really cool about this format is that it's so accessible.
You don't need any fancy equipment. You can literally just film it on your phone.
And it's still super effective.
But here's the thing. Brendan says that 99% of people who try to use these formats fail.
And it's because they skip the most important step.
They don't analyze the format deeply enough.
They might see a video like Robert's and think, oh, I can do that.
But they don't take the time to understand why it works so well.
They're just mimicking the surface level without understanding the deeper structure.
They're not actually learning the recipe. They're just trying to copy the pleating.
Right. And that's where Hookpoint's gold, silver, bronze process comes in.
This is where the real detective work begins.
It's about examining multiple videos within your chosen format.
The top performers, the gold videos,
The average performers, the silver videos.
and even the low performers, the bronze videos.
You want to look at 5 to 10 videos in each category and really break them down.
To see what's driving those different levels of performance.
What are the performance drivers that are making the gold videos stand out?
And it's not just about the content itself.
It's about all those subtle nuances in the execution.
The pacing, the tone of voice, the camera angles, the use of captions, the number of edits in a scene, all those little things.
They all add up.
And Brendan says Hookpoint has analyzed over 1,000 of these performance drivers.
So they have a lot of data to back this up.
Yeah, they've really done their homework.
He compares it to filmmaking.
Yeah.
Just because you want to make a movie,
Doesn't mean you can just grab a camera and start filming.
you need to understand all the different elements that go into it.
The directing, the writing, the editing, the cinematography, the lighting.
If any one of those things is off, it can ruin the whole movie.
Like, have you ever seen a movie where something just felt wrong,
Oh, yeah, totally.
but you couldn't quite put your finger on what it was?
Yeah, it's like that feeling when you bite into a cake and it's just dry and crumbly.
Something's missing.
So we've chosen our format and we're analyzing it meticulously using this gold, silver, bronze process.
Now, Brendan takes us a step further. He wants to show us this process in action,
And he does this by using the visual metaphor format as an example.
which is a really powerful format for explaining complex topics
It's about taking an abstract idea
and representing it visually using physical objects.
and then explaining the connection between the two.
And Brendan highlights Dr. Julie Smith, who uses this format brilliantly.
She talks about things like PTSD, anxiety, panic attacks.
And she uses these really simple but effective visuals to make those concepts more understandable.
Like he showed a clip where she was talking about toxic environments.
And she used a fish in a tank of dirty water as a metaphor.
And she explained that taking a break from that environment is like putting the fish in a bowl of clean water.
But to really thrive, the fish needs a whole new tank.
It was such a clear and impactful way to explain a really complex idea.
And to really drive home the importance of the gold, silver, bronze process, Brendan compares 2 of Dr. Julie's videos.
Both using that same visual metaphor format.
One had 12 million views, the other had 130,000.
A huge difference.
And he describes the first video, the one with 12 million views.
Dr. Julie is using an overflowing waste paper basket to represent all the bad memories that people bring to therapy,
And she's physically taking papers out of the basket, folding them neatly, putting them aside.
symbolizing the therapist's role in helping people process those memories.
And then the second video, the one with fewer views, she's standing next to a busy road.
Using the traffic as a metaphor for thoughts and feelings.
And she's talking about mindfulness as the ability to step back from those thoughts and just observe them without judgment.
Like watching the traffic go by.
So both videos are using visual metaphors, but one clearly performed much better than the other.
And then Brendan breaks down the specific performance drivers that account for that difference.
The first one is what he calls active metaphor.
In the high-performing video, Dr. Julie is actively interacting with the props.
She's taking the papers out of the basket, she's folding them, she's creating a visual story.
In the lower-performing video, she's just asking the viewer to imagine the scenario.
It's much more passive.
The second performance driver is tension.
The overflowing waste paper basket in the high-performing video immediately creates a sense of visual tension.
Like something needs to be done about that overflowing basket.
It draws the viewer in subconsciously.
The busy road in the lower-performing video doesn't have that same immediate sense of tension.
It's just there.
The third driver is potential energy.
From the very beginning of the high-performing video, you can tell that Dr. Julie is going to interact with the basket.
You see it there. You know she's going to do something with it.
It creates a sense of anticipation.
The lower performing video doesn't have that same sense of anticipation.
It's not clear what's going to happen.
And then the final driver is cleverness.
The high-performing video uses everyday objects in a really unexpected and insightful way.
To represent this abstract concept of trauma.
It's clever. It makes you think.
The lower performing video relies more on the viewer's imagination.
It doesn't have that same spark of ingenuity.
And Brendan says this is what separates the pros from the amateurs.
Most people don't put in the time to analyze their chosen format to this level of detail.
They're not thinking about these subtle performance drivers.
They're just trying to imitate what they see on the surface.
So the key takeaways here are, 1, find the right format for you based on your resources and your passions.
2, use a tool like the Hookpoint Format Finder to help you identify proven formats.
3, apply the gold, silver, bronze process to really understand what's driving success.
And avoid those common pitfalls that lead to low engagement.
This is how you move from hoping for a lucky viral moment
to creating content that consistently gets results.
Okay, so we've got our format, we've analyzed it, we're ready to start creating content.
What's next?
Well, Brendan's third step is all about ideation. But it's not what you might think.
It's not about coming up with a bunch of random ideas and seeing what sticks.
It's about using your chosen format as a framework for generating ideas.
He says a lot of creators make the mistake of starting with an idea.
And then trying to figure out how to fit it into a format.
Which can really limit your success because you're not starting with a solid foundation.
You're building a house without a blueprint.
Exactly. And Brendan says the best way to generate great ideas is to work within a proven format.
The format becomes your guide. Your blueprint.
It helps you focus your creative energy and come up with ideas that are actually going to resonate with your audience.
And he uses Tanner Leatherstein as a great example.
Tanner is the founder of a leather goods company called Pug-Eye.
He's got this amazing backstory. He made his first leather jacket when he was just 11 years old.
Then he went on to have all these other jobs, driving a cab, working in corporate America.
But he eventually found his way back to his true passion, leatherworking.
But when he started trying to build his brand on social media, he was struggling.
He had around 2,000 followers, and he was trying all the usual stuff.
Running ads, following trends.
But nothing seemed to be working.
So Brendan and his team worked with Tanner to develop a signature format for his content.
And they came up with this brilliant idea called, Is It Worth It?
The idea is Tanner takes these high-end luxury leather goods.
Like designer handbags, wallets, shoes.
And he deconstructs them on camera.
Showing the materials, the stitching, the construction, all the details.
And he gives his expert opinion on whether the price tag is justified.
Like Brendan showed an example where Tanner was analyzing a pair of Christian Louboutin shoes.
He broke down the cost, the design, the materials, everything.
He even talked about that famous red sole.
And he explained how it's actually made.
And then he gave his verdict on whether he thought they were worth the price.
And he often suggests more affordable alternatives that are still high quality.
And what's so genius about this format is that it's infinitely repeatable.
Tanner can just keep swapping in new products.
A Prada bag, a Chanel wallet, a Gucci belt.
And his passion for leather gives him an endless supply of content ideas.
And the results have been incredible.
Tanner went from 2,000 followers to 2.3 million.
94 of his videos have over 1 million views each.
And he's done it all by focusing on building that know, like, and trust factor with his audience.
He's not trying to hard sell his products.
He's providing value, he's educating his audience, he's entertaining them.
And that's what ultimately drives sales.
He went from having 10,000 monthly visitors to his website through paid advertising
to over 100,000 organic visitors.
And he's consistently selling out his most expensive products.
It's a perfect example of how a well-chosen format can transform your business.
So the takeaway here is don't just start with a random idea.
Find a format that works and let it guide your content creation process.
It'll make you a better idea generator, and it'll help you create content that actually gets results.
All right, we've got our format, we've got our ideas. What's next?
Well, Brendan's fourth step is one video at a time.
Which might sound counterintuitive, especially in today's world of batch production.
Yeah, everyone's trying to be as efficient as possible.
But Brendan says when it comes to creating content that really connects with your audience,
it's better to slow down and focus on quality over quantity.
he uses this great analogy of a chef making a cake.
If you're trying out a new recipe and you bake 10 cakes at once,
And the first one comes out dry and crumbly.
well, you've just wasted a lot of time and ingredients.
Because the other 9 cakes are probably going to be just as bad.
You didn't give yourself a chance to adjust the recipe based on that first result.
And it's the same with content creation if you film a whole bunch of videos at once.
And the first one doesn't perform well?
You've potentially wasted a lot of time and effort.
Because the other videos might have the same problems.
You haven't given yourself a chance to learn and adapt.
So Brendan advocates for a more iterative approach. Create one video,
Analyze its performance,
adjust your strategy based on the data.
and then create the next video.
It's like perfecting a pasta sauce. You taste it, you adjust the seasoning as you go.
You don't just dump all the ingredients in at once and hope for the best.
It's about making small incremental improvements over time.
So we've created our video, we've analyzed it, we're ready to move on to step 5.
Analyze and improve.
So you've put all this work into creating your video, you've shared it with the world.
Now what?
Well, now it's time to go back to that gold, silver, bronze process.
You dig into the data to see what worked and what didn't.
Brendan asks this really relatable question. How many times have you poured your heart into a piece of content
Only to see it totally flop.
and you have no idea why?
It's so frustrating.
But his model gives you a framework for understanding those failures.
And turning them into valuable learning experiences.
So if your video didn't perform the way you hoped,
You go back to your gold, silver, bronze research.
did you miss a key performance driver?
Was your execution off?
Were there elements in the high-performing videos that you didn't include in yours?
And to help you with this analysis, Hookpoint developed this really cool tool called the Hookpoint mirror test
Which is basically taking your underperforming video
and putting it side by side with a high-performing video in the same format.
and watching them simultaneously.
It's amazing how much you can learn by doing this.
You start to see those subtle differences in execution that you might not have noticed before.
Brendan says it's about being brutally honest with yourself.
Don't make excuses. Don't blame the algorithm.
Just look at the data and see where you can improve.
And he shows another great example of this with a client named Aaron Gorey.
Who had amazing success after going through Mindvalley's social media mastery program.
They compared 2 of her videos.
One had 15,000 views,
The other had 59 million.
a massive difference.
And the first video, the one with fewer views, it shows puppies running around in a class.
There's music playing but no narration.
The second video shows the same puppies.
But it focuses on the reactions of the people in the class.
They're surprised, they're amused, they're totally engaged.
And Brendan breaks down the performance drivers that explain this huge disparity.
The first one is big reactions.
The video that went viral focused on capturing those authentic reactions of the participants.
The lower performing video focused more on the puppies themselves.
And the reactions of the people were more subdued.
The second driver is clear conflict.
The high-performing video immediately establishes the sense of chaos.
Like, can these people handle all these puppies?
The lower-performing video shows the puppies being much calmer.
There's not that same level of tension.
And then the third driver is the use of captions,
The video with fewer views had captions.
which might have distracted viewers from the visuals,
The video that went viral didn't have any captions.
which kept the focus on the reactions and the puppies.
It also made the video accessible to a wider audience.
People who might not speak the same language
So it's amazing how these seemingly small details,
can have such a big impact on a video's performance.
and as you get more experience,
You can start comparing your underperforming videos to your own past successes.
to further refine your understanding of what works for your specific audience.
And Erin's results are really impressive after using this approach.
She's had over 46 videos with over 1 million views each,
7 videos with over 10 million views.
over 250 million total views,
And she went from having 1,000 followers on Instagram,
to over 140,000.
and she's got over 100,000 followers on TikTok now.
So the takeaways from this final step are refine, repeat, succeed.
Analyze your underperforming videos to see what's missing.
Identify the patterns in your successful videos and replicate them.
Test and iterate based on data, not guesswork.
And follow this structured process to create content that consistently performs well.
The point is, most creators don't understand why their content succeeds or fails.
But this system gives you a framework for figuring it out.
Turning those failures into learning experiences.
So you can create content that's more likely to go viral.
And that brings us back to Brendan's main message.
Going viral isn't about luck.
It's about understanding and applying a proven formula.
It's a process that can be learned and replicated.
And he lays out the 5 key steps in the Hookpoint viral content model.
1, go from consumer to creator.
2, select and analyze your format.
3, ideation within that format.
4, one video at a time.
5, analyze and improve.
And he says this model has helped people generate over 60 billion views.
Attract over 100 million followers.
And drive over $1 billion in revenue.
Those are some pretty impressive numbers.
So now you've seen behind the curtain, you've got the recipe.
The question is, what are you going to create?
How are you going to use these tools to achieve your own goals?
It's time to take action. It's time to start creating with intention.